always fun when I go to the East Coast because this song is sort of born out of this area. This was a song that I wrote out of a collection of letters from my 11th generation grandfather back to my 12th generation grandfather during the American Revolution, which I came across online by Googling my grandfather. So just this book came up, and I bid high like I always do, and then I won. But it was hundreds of letters from Jedidiah Huntington back to his father, and I forget what his father's name is. One of those biblical names. There were Jedidiah and Ezekiel and Samuel, and there were like 12 sons. So they all had biblical names. But anyway, these letters were amazing. My grandfather worked his way up through to Major General in Washington's Army. The letters are over a 20-year time period, and they're quite eloquent and very lyrical. And so I just when we were going to war with Bush II, and I thought, I was starting to get a lot of flack for the political stuff I was writing. And so I thought, I knew I had this patriot grandfather back in there, so I was sort of like, how can I use Jedidiah to serve my purposes? And more importantly, how can I turn him into a Democrat? But that wasn't going to happen. So, but he didn't go the other way either. It was like everything that we've become was in these letters. It was all a very clear understanding of what it took to stage a revolution, and a lot of courage there. Having to forego the currency and start a whole new currency, invest whatever money they had in this dream. So I set him up for the song. I set him up in the winter of 1777 in Valley Forge, which is where he was. He had his own section there, and at that point he was a lieutenant, I think, and he had his own trench lines. Actually, he was a general at that point because he had the Jedidiah. I walked his trench lines there in Valley Forge. I detoured one time when I was cruising through Pennsylvania, and I saw Valley Forge. I just went off, and there suddenly I was there at the Huntington trench line, still there. But like I said, I set him up in that winter. We all know the famous winter of 1777, when the 1% of the loyalists to King George, the irony at the time. So they were all being wined and dined by the wealthy houses of Philadelphia were wining and dining. The 1% in Philadelphia are wining and dining the British soldiers in Philadelphia, while Washington and my grandfather were out there in Valley Forge. And there are some letters from there I kind of started him out, and then he just took over, and I just was able to pull whole lines and kind of make them work. So this is Jedidiah, 1777. Jedidiah out in the snow, walking on the frozen trench lines, wet boots and his wool coat coming apart at the seams. Rations of hard-baked dough, handfuls of melting snow. What else can a man live on but his dreams? Sand the cloth for a good waistcoat. I dream of your hearth in the fields of oat. I wake to the drum and the trembling note of the fifer. May it please God in His great mercy to shelter our friends and our family. I remain your son most faithfully, Jedidiah. Seen a man who's seen a man who's heard the king tell of his intention our independence to declare. Peace will undoubtedly bring a great revolution in commerce. May it be our rightful fortune to come in for a share. My regards to a certain Miss Moore. I've stated my honorable intentions for her, and upon my return from this necessary war, she'll be my wife. May it please God in His great mercy to restore the joys of domesticity. Salutations to the family, Jedidiah. Is in the hands of an almighty sovereign, who I doubt not is accomplishing the ends of his desire. My love to you and the fair Miss Moore, spare me a bottle from the cellar store. In my name let the contents pour. Jedidiah. Yeah, I love that line. I have seen a man who has seen a man who has seen the king. That was actually in there. I thought, oh man, I want that line.